Welcome back to Team Toronto Talks. This episode focusing on leadership. One of the most important issues going on globally right now is the issue of racism and racial equality. And this has impacted every corner of the world, and sports is no exception. So Brendan, let me go to you next. How did this impact you? And again, what initiatives are you trying to start within the Maple Leafs organization to combat racial injustice?
Well, I think that, personally, I remember years ago, when my wife and I first were married, and she was talking about, she got her master's degree in social work. And I remember her talking about like her professor, who was a black man who lived around the campus. And I was always struck with one particular story in which he used to talk about how when he would, even though he was a professor at this campus, when he would go for a jog at night, he would hear, as he was jogging down the sidewalk, the sounds of doors on cars locking, at red lights and such, and how it broke his heart every time he heard that sound. And we've always lived in a way in which we spoke out if we saw racism. We spoke up if we heard someone saying something racist. But I think during this time when this happened, I thought that was enough. I thought that was enough, that the people that when I'm in contact with them, or the children that we raise with what we think are values which are important to us, and obviously so not racist, and stepping up when you see it. And my reflection has been that it's not enough to just address racism when you see it. We have to seek it out and address racism. We have to attack it. We have to go find it. Because we all know people who know how to hide it. Some of these people who are acting out right now, they're easy to spot. I sometimes think the more dangerous people are the ones that know how to hide it, and they know how to be, to hide behind the scenes. And so I think as an organization right now, we're so far behind these other guys. Where hockey is a predominantly white sport. We have been a predominantly white organization. We have these guys in this call here are so much further ahead of us, the Maple Leafs. And in some ways that excites me, of the opportunities that we have to make a significant change, not only in the sport of hockey, but here in Toronto, and have a positive impact. Our players have all reached out to Kyle Dubas and I. We're actively seeking input, and you talk about getting education. And I remember the first time I heard someone say, like, I got to educate myself. And I thought, like, what? You're 50 years old. What have you been doing for the first 50 years of your life, you clown? But even the fact that you think you're educated, but have you really talked to someone who's experienced this? Like Masai, we go out to dinner all the time. I've never said to Masai, like, tell me what it's like, Masai. If somebody ever did something racist to Masai in front of me, I'd snap and want to punch the person out. But when we don't see it, to assume then that everything is good for Masai, everything is good for the future of Masai's children, that's where we're wrong. That's where we're guilty. We're guilty of not doing enough. We have to obviously make some short-term plans. We've got to make some changes short-term. But for me, the biggest impact we can have on the city is to plant seeds within the hockey community. We have an impact as Maple Leafs in a hockey-mad city. But we've got a lot to learn. And I think that's the process that we're in now. It's not a process of inaction. Learning is action. And we and our players are really trying to decide what do we need to learn so that we can really make effective changes that have an impact, not just putting something out and saying, we've done our part, we've said our thing, let's put it behind us. Really laying out a strategy that is similar to how we want to build. When we want to build an organization, we talk about sustainability. What can we do so that if I'm gone and Bill's gone and Mark is gone and Masai is gone, we've built something that is repeatable, sustainable, that'll be existing long after we're gone.
Well, it goes without saying that COVID-19 has impacted every corner of the sports world, and our four guests here on this show, they're no exceptions. It's probably turned their worlds upside down over the last few months. Brendan, have you found this crisis has brought people together, and people are stepping up, giving you good ideas, and everybody's really lending a hand in whatever way they can?
Well, I think when you do what we do for a living, we're competitive to begin with, and you surround yourself with competitive people, and we all have tried to take this as a and by the way, in any given year when there's even not a pandemic, you go into every year sort of knowing, like, here's our plan, and then be ready to adjust when the plan gets flipped on its side, or a player gets hurt, or something changes. So you're always building your team to kind of have the resiliency to adapt. And you don't win a championship. Masai, most recent champion here, you don't win a championship without having adversity and needing to adapt along the way. So not that any of us have seen something like this, but that's how we've tried to treat it. We've tried to treat it that we're going to be completely off balance. We're going to be completely uncomfortable. But are we going to be strong enough and resilient enough to adapt where we need to? And I've been really proud of our group and our overall group with these guys here who've helped me along the way, because we all have different challenges here. But with respect to the Maple Leafs, I've really been pleased with how everyone has stepped up. And like these guys, I'm an optimistic person, and there's a lot of pessimism going around these days, and understandably so. I just, in the back of my mind, I just keep thinking ahead to that time. And some people say it'll never be the same. And I don't know what it'll look like, but I do have this belief that we are going to have an opportunity in Toronto again to make people happy. People will be able to embrace again in our arenas and stadiums. And I firmly just hold that belief, because that's the part I keep looking forward to. And you want to snap your fingers and get to that moment, but it'll come where we'll have a great moment here again in Toronto that we all get to celebrate, and we get to embrace each other. And that's the part that I am looking forward to, the hopefulness of the humanity of us coming together, as opposed to becoming frightened and pulling apart. I'm really hopeful in that humanity. And the other thing we have to remember too is we all have new challenges with our families. Like the what we've been used to, and the sort of patterns that we have with our families at home, which support us and help us do our jobs, it's now different. It's a bigger job for us at home, and you have to empathize with the people that work for you, that they have new challenges as well. So it's been just one constant learning experience throughout.